Hello, guys. Welcome to the session here. In this particular session, we will be looking into the climate change and we will be looking in depth about how the climate change is happening, what is the definition of climate change, what are certain empirical evidences which suggests that climate change is taking place in the global world, then what are the recent examples that we can quote, and summarily we will also look into the impact of climate change on India as per se, and what are the different mitigation strategies and adoption strategies that we need to look into. So let us start with the climate change. So firstly, we'll start with the definition of climate change. So climate change refers to long term alteration alteration of global weather global weather patterns, okay, and average temperature over a region. So suppose this was a particular area, okay. So suppose in the month of June, the average temperature used to be about 25 degrees Celsius. Average temperature is about like how we calculate average temperature, it is about 25-year average. Now suppose we have seen that in the coming times or in the recent times, the 25 degrees Celsius is getting increased to 29 degrees Celsius in the month of June. So this is a deviation from the long run average. So this is how we are terming as a climate change. Okay. So this is a way of interpreting the climate change, and we can look at it from the other perspective also, from the perspective of rainfall, in the perspective of humidity, in the perspective of average temperature. So there are different variables, okay, that we can utilize to understand the impact of climate change in the region, okay. And why this climate change is happening? It is happening because of the release of the greenhouse gases. So release of greenhouse gases. What are GHGs? These greenhouse gases are called GHGs. Greenhouse gases are those gases which have the potential to trap the incoming solar radiation from outside. They trap the incoming solar radiation from the outside, but they prevent the radiation going outside. They do not let the radiation go outside, they just trap it within the system. So that's why it is called greenhouse gases, okay. The common examples are we have CO2, carbon dioxide, we have methane, okay. Then we also have our water vapor. So these are some of our greenhouse gases, okay. Now we will look into the data set, what the data set are saying about the climate change which is taking place. So the first data set is saying that our average temperature, the average surface temperature of earth has increased by 1.1 degree Celsius or 2 degree Fahrenheit since pre-industrial era. Means before we started with the industrialization, the temperature then and the temperature now is showing a difference of about 1.1 degree Celsius. So there is a temperature difference, that is T2 minus T1 is about 1.1 degrees Celsius. So this is one evidence we can quote. Secondly, we can also say that global sea level has risen by 21 centimeter to 24 centimeter in the same time period. That is about 8 inches to 9 inches. Okay, so the global sea level has risen by 21 centimeter to 24 centimeter. Okay, then if we look into the third parameter is the concentration of CO2 and other greenhouse gases. So we can say that concentration has increased. Concentration has increased by 40%. Has increased by 40% above the pre-industrial era. Okay, so these are some of the three that I've just quoted in front of you. The data, the concentration is with 40% is with respect to the gases like CO2, methane, and other greenhouse gases. Their concentration is increased. And if we want to look into certain example which are quite evident in the real life and we can actually visualize them taking place, so these example can be local and global. So local impacts that we have seen of climate changes: firstly, increased number of cyclones in Indian Ocean. Increased number of cyclone in Indian Ocean, especially in Arabian Sea. Especially in Arabian Sea. Recently, there was a cyclone called Biparjoy. Okay, Biparjoy cyclone was there. Then there are like many more cyclones like that, like cyclone Amphan, which was there. Okay, that actually struck the West Bengal, and then cyclone Taukte was there, which hit in Gujarat in 2021. Cyclone Tautke, Tautkae. Okay, it hit in 2021 and it hit in 2022. There are many more. There are cyclone Gulab, cyclone Titli. There are various cyclones. So these are the local events which we can identify. Then other local events like Chennai water crisis. Chennai water crisis. Chennai water crisis happened in the year 2019, and it was the issue of water shortage. Water shortage. And if you remember, in 2015 there was a too much of rainfall and it created a flood in Chennai, the Chennai floods. So see, Chennai is facing the double problem. In one year it is facing flood, and at other year it is facing drought. So flood in Chennai and drought in Chennai. Okay, similarly in Mumbai you have Mumbai coastal flooding. Mumbai coastal flooding. Coastal flooding in the year 2020. It led to a large amount of like sea level rise and extreme weather events. Okay, so these things were there. Sea level risen. So these are the local factors or the country wise factor that we've just seen. We can also look from the perspective of the global factor. So I'm writing about the global factors. The global factors could be global factors. They could be about coral bleaching. Coral bleaching, especially with respect to east of Australia. In the east of Australia, there is a coral bleaching that is called Great Barrier Reef bleaching. Great Barrier Reef bleaching. Okay, then we also had the issues of Australian bushfire. And we had also had Amazon fire. Okay, then we had issues of Arctic melting. Arctic oblique Antarctic oblique Hindu Kush melting. plus Greenland melting. So these are some of the global example which we can actually point out. These number of cyclone in Indian Ocean. Okay, so these we can actually point out, and so we can come to the point that what are these climate change are creating impact on India. So we now need to look into the impact of these climate change on India. So let me write a new heading: impact of climate change, impact of climate change on India. What is the impact of climate change on India? So impact of climate change on India can be seen from rising heat waves, extreme heat wave events. So heat waves or extreme heat waves, especially in the month of summers. We have the local wind called Loo. The temperature rises so high it even reaches 50 degrees Celsius to some places, and is highly high as up to 45 degrees Celsius plus in the northern belt. It is in the Ganga Brahmaputra region. Okay, and all this lead to a very intense issues, and those who are working in these construction sector, informal sector, they are quite severely impacted with it. So this is there. Then the second impact is flash flood. Recently we have seen Gujarat airport is submerged into it. So flash flood in Gujarat. Then flash drought, flash flood, flash drought. Then we also have cloud burst. Cloud bursts are quite common phenomena in the Himalayan regions. So these have actually increased their frequency. Now we also have the other economic impacts of climate change. If I may so write here, economic impacts. So under economic impacts we can talk about sector wise. If we look into agriculture, so basically if there's a heat wave, so it may cause the paddy production to fall, again wheat production to fall, and you see these are the crop which we grow. And so if our agriculture gets susceptible to the heat waves or the climate vagaries, then our food security is compromised, and it will bring the inflationary pressure in the economy. So those who are the buyers, those farmers, those person who are the buyer of the food, will actually feel the brunt of this increased inflation in the foods component. Then also rising sea level could be seen into the coastal region. Like if I draw the map of India, okay, so if I see this is the map of India, then these coastal regions, if I may use this different, these coastal regions will be subject to coastal submergence, the salt water, the sea may intrude into the system. So salt water intrusion, and it may make the soil infertile, so infertile soil, and it will impact those who are at the very bottom of the pyramid, those who are very poor person. So it may also create that kind of challenges. Then the issue is regarding to fishery. Fishes may migrate because of the altered climate change, so fish migration could take place. It will again jeopardize the life of the common people. It will also lead to the rise of the invasive species. So invasive species rise, especially in the brackish water that we have in the Kerala, and we see there are very specifically lantana camera. These are the invasive species which actually hampers the development of the local biodiversity, and it actually creates a huge problem to the local economies. Then the climate change is also creating La Nina and El Nino. So El Nino, and then La Nina. Then we have Indian Ocean Dipole. So all this impact us, because it all is impact what? The monsoonal rainfall. Monsoonal rainfall. And this monsoonal rainfall is not just important for farmers. They are important for farmers. They also the source of water to rivers. Water to rivers. They are critical for the marine or inland wildlife, inland waterways, and aquatic wildlife. Aquatic aquatic life, like we have dolphins, we have alligator, we have crocodile, we have turtles, tortoise. All these things are there, and all these things supported. Then we also have many industries in situated along the course of the rivers. Like if you go for the Kanpur, we have leather tanneries. So they all need water in their production. So if uh, climate change causes change in the precipitation pattern, so all this does what? Change in precipitation pattern. Okay, so when there is a change in precipitation pattern, it may either lead to the regions which are having floods, the region which are facing droughts simultaneously. So on one side a country is having the flood, and on the other side the country is facing the drought. So these are the broader impact that climate change is having. Then again it will include the climate induced migration, climate induced migration in the system. It will also take place. Vulnerable people will migrate from one place to other, from one region to other, from areas which are more susceptible to the areas which are less susceptible to the climate change. So it will create a kind of migration, and it distort the basic fabric of the society. So these are there. Now we will look into the mitigation strategies. So what are the mitigation strategies that we need to follow? So I'm looking forward for the mitigation strategies. Mitigation strategies. So what are the mitigation strategies? Mitigation strategies are those strategies which will help us to combat the menace of the climate change. So firstly we need to transition toward the renewable energy. So transition towards renewable energy, towards renewable energy. So this transition toward the renewable energy from fossil fuel, from coal, from oil, etc., or natural gas, etc. So we need to have a transition from these toward the more cleaner and greener, like solar, wind, bio, or we also have that tidal energy. In this way we will be able to secure the energy need. At the same time we will be able to reduce the emission of the greenhouse gases, which are largely responsible for the climate change. Then we need to look for the energy efficiency. Okay, then we need to look for energy efficiency, like there is a green building we need to focus upon. When we have a green building, it is possible to reduce the energy requirement. It is also possible for the green tire transport. Okay, green transport. So these are something which are important. Then we need to capture carbon also. So there is a scheme called carbon capture and storage. So carbon capture storage. Recently the Norway has actually started doing this. It has started capturing the carbon from the atmosphere and started storing deep into the earth. Then one of the very important which everybody and each one of us can contribute is through forest conservation. Forest conservation. Then we through reforestation, afforestation, reforestation, forest conservation. These are some of the things which we need to follow so that our like overall carbon capturing through plantation also takes place. And we can promote the public transportation, and we need to promote better spaces for the bicycle. So behavior change is also important bicycles, or we can also go for electric vehicles, EVs. And we need to follow the LIFE, which was promoted by our prime minister, that is lifestyle for environment. So we need to change our lifestyle in a way which will be able to improve the environment in totality and reduces the stress on the environment particularly. Okay, then we can look into the various policies taken by the government. So what are the policies taken by the government? Policies by government. What are the policies that were taken by the government? The first policy that comes to my mind is National Action Plan for Climate Change. There were 8 strategies. It is a very comprehensive framework, and it has 8 strategies. Which are covering the different dimensions, and it is objected to reduce GHGs, reduce greenhouse gases, promote mitigation and adaptation. Then second is international Solar Alliance. So International Solar Alliance is launched by India and France to counter the impact of climate change on us. So it has actually started the promotion of the solar energy under one sun, one world, one grid. So it aims to mobilize $1,000 billion, okay, to promote 1000 gigawatt of energy. 1000 gigawatt of energy. So this is a very ambitious project which is there. Then we also have administrative ways in which we are trying to improve, that is Bharat Stage Norm 6. So these are the new types of improved version of vehicles which are more climate friendly, which are less emitting the emissions. Emission reduction can be controlled. Emission reduction can be achieved, and emission that is coming outside of the vehicle could be controlled. So emission reduction is taking place. Then we also have called Green India Mission. Green India Mission. So Green India Mission also aims to increase India's forest cover and enhance ecosystem services. So India's forest cover and promote India's ecosystem services. Then we also have very decentralized plan like Swachh Bharat Mission. Then we also have Smart Cities Mission. So these are all very important to improve the meanness of the climate change and to make our system more better. So there are also the global initiative. This was the initiative taken by India. There are global initiatives too. Global initiatives. Global initiatives involve, firstly we have Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement. So what is Paris Agreement? Paris Agreement was related, so we can write COP21. It was in the year 2015. It was decided to reduce the rising temperature above the pre-industrial level to less than 2 degrees Celsius. With more ambitiously, if we can achieve it and control it to within 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial era temperature. Pre-industrial era temperature. So since temperature has already increased and it is about to breach 2 degrees Celsius by the end of this century, so all our effort are to reduce that rise should not breach or should stay less than 2 degrees Celsius, and ambitious effort must be followed to pursue it to remain it to 1.5 degrees Celsius in the coming time. Okay, so this is our Paris Agreement. Secondly, we have our Green Climate Fund. Green Climate Fund to fund the mitigation and adaptation and reduce the GHGs, to reduce the greenhouse gas emission and promote mitigation and adaptation. Okay, then the third is, it is we can write initially we have carbon pricing initiative, which we already have, which is implemented for carbon to tax the carbon. So carbon pricing initiative, or we can use the carbon border tax. Carbon border tax by European Union, which it will impose on the imports which are coming to its economy, so that the importers to the European Union are discouraged to utilize the carbon intensive manufacturing. Okay, so these are some of the global initiatives that we have taken. So these are the ways in which we can actually help improve our structure overall. So in this particular lecture, what we have seen, we have looked up to the definition of the climate change. What does the climate change mean? Then we have looked for the data. What are the different data sets that support that climate is changing? Then we are also looking from the evidence perspective, what are the local impacts that we are taking, and what are the global factors that are there which are saying that climate change is a real threat. Then after that, we have tried to analyze the impact of the climate change in India, what impact it is creating for India, and what are the challenges that it is posing for us. Then after that, we have looked into what are the mitigation strategies that are being followed with respect to climate change. Then we have also looked into what are the policies of the government which we are seeing, like National Action Plan on Climate Change. We have seen here. We have seen International Solar Alliance. Then we have also seen Bharat Stage Norm. We are also seeing that Green India Mission, Swachh Bharat Mission. Then we have looked into the global initiative. Like we have Paris Agreement. We have Green Climate Fund. So Paris Agreement was there. Green Climate Fund is there. Carbon border tax is there by European Union, and they're like in the overall, in totality, different countries are taking. Then we can also add upon NDC targets. Now countries are pledging to reduce their nationally determined contribution by voluntary basis. So if I may write, it is voluntary basis. And we also have more programs. We can write about REDD plus. It is about financing for the if one country is gone for the green drive, so they should be compensated, they should be given some kind of fund so that they could continue with it. Okay, so it is about transferring the finance, so financial support financial support for afforestation. So these are some of the global initiatives and efforts which are taking place, and in totality and all in all, what we can say, it is the collective problem, and collective problem can only be solved with collective efforts. So collective efforts collective efforts are important, but we must also prioritize here, and we must also make it the aspect of equity. Those who are historically being lesser responsible for it, that is lesser responsible for creating the issues of climate change, they should not be penalized heavily. That's why the focus should be on common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. I may write here the different pen, so it would be common but differentiated responsibilities with respective capabilities, along with climate finance. So here we can actually conclude by saying that if we have to conclude overall, that common but differentiated responsibilities with respective capabilities and climate finance could actually be the way forward in addressing the meanness of this global challenge, and we could be able to establish a more secure, more equitable, and more equity in the society, and promote intergenerational development, so that nobody is penalized. At the same time, the problem of the global commons are sorted at the earliest. So this is all for this lecture. So if any of you have any suggestion, you can kindly drop it into the suggestion box, and we will definitely look into them and we'll try to improve upon. Thank you so much.